Hello, good afternoon, everyone around the world. This is Will Barney from Enoch Global Services. So glad to be with you today. We've got a lot of fun things to discuss and to go over. We are excited for the events that are transpiring. We want to focus on a few important things today. You can see the title of this episode is The Great Psyop, and we're going to be discussing some of the things that have been transpiring for decades leading up to this point in time. It's important that we understand the time in which we live and what is actually taking place. It's historic on many levels, and I hope that many of you feel that and understand it. And so we're going to have some fun, I think, going through some of these slides that I've prepared today to talk about current events that have taken place just within the last week and how that dovetails in with what has been unfolding for now decades. So important things. So we'll go to, let me bring up my slides here and we'll get started. Okay. Here we've got the Great Psyop as our intro. And I want to begin first with big economic news that just happened last, I believe it was on Friday. Actually, no, it was Thursday. Excuse me. So let's go to that. Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, shared this. Today, Ripple is breaking into the 120 trillion corporate treasury payments market with the 1 billion acquisition of G Treasury. The past few years have reminded this industry why payments, first and foremost, is the most primary use case for crypto and blockchain. Payments are where Ripple first started for exactly these reasons. The infrastructure is complete, siloed, and inefficient, but as we know, perfectly positioned to benefit from decentralized financial technologies. So G Treasury provides the capabilities to manage multiple blockchain accounts and kind of gives companies a way to manage their whole portfolio and to move money in and out of various accounts as they need to. So it's kind of their whole treasury management system that they provide services to many different companies. So this would allow companies to set up accounts for payroll, accounts for expenditures for various parts of the business, and that they can manage those each from different wallets, if you will, digital crypto wallets. This is a big move. We saw earlier in the year, Ripple purchased Hidden Road, huge broker-dealer, the biggest on the planet that we know of handling this type of transaction. Prior to that, they purchased Custody, digital custody company. They also purchased Rails, which provides an incredible amount of flexibility in terms of being able to move payments to people's various accounts. And now we have this dropping, which is unbelievable. So Ripple is very well positioned to utilize the technology that is present before us, particularly with blockchain, to move payments fast, efficiently, and most importantly, inexpensively. This will be a fraction of the cost of what it currently costs people to do with the banking system. So I wanted to start with this. It was big news. It dropped last Thursday. I didn't have time to get it into the slides when we did our presentation last Thursday, but wanted to start with this one first, okay? Next here, we had a big protest that happened on Saturday, King's Day. The USA posted about it. They said millions turned out to protest Trump for no kings. Now what? Well, as we look at now what, there was people that came out and they held up their signs and they did their thing. But at the end, Trump's still president. Everything is still the same. I'm not sure what it accomplished, but Trump had some fun with it. By Saturday night, he had posted this meme, again, AI-generated meme, and people picked up on it. And of course, they had to publish it. President Trump fires back at No King's Day by posting AI video of himself bombing protesters with brown liquid. So here's the post by Trump on the left here. And on the right here, we've got the videos. Let's watch this. So this was interesting. It caused a big stir among those that were protesting because they couldn't believe the president of the United States would post something so outrageously ridiculous. And for everyone else, they had a laugh of a lifetime, big belly laughs over this. Again, the event happened. What did it accomplish? But there's more to this. So let's take a look. Representative Anna Paulina Luna from Florida posted this. This is the details of the money that went into funding the No Kings Day. And what we see here is that there are a number of very big corporate donors that are funding this. Arabella, Warren Buffett, Ford Motor Company, Rockefeller, the Soros family, and Tide Corporation, the laundry detergent company. And if you look at the totals here, $254 million spent to create this protest to try to, I don't know what. They can't overturn a president. So it was pretty crazy what we saw happen there. Distraction, perhaps, but I don't think it had its intended response that they wanted. On Sunday, this video aired. It's with President Trump, with Maria Bartiromo, about current events and questions that she had. I'm going to play this video. This is a shortened summary, so it's just a little snippet, but it kind of gives you an idea of how the interview went.
Is there a timeline to get Hamas to disarm?
It's not a hard timeline, but it's a line in my own mind. And at a certain point, if they don't do what they're supposed to do, then we'll have to do it for them. If we win the tariff case, which hopefully we will, it's vital to the interests of our country. We're the wealthiest country there is. We'll see what happens with China. They're always looking for an edge. You know, they ripped off our country for years. I think we're going to be fine with China, but we have to have a fair deal. It's got to be fair. Investing in America, $20 trillion. No country's ever done anywhere even near that. It's a miracle what's happening. We are building the greatest country in the world. If they took away tariffs, then they've taken away our national security. The Democrats are kamikazes right now. They're kamikaze pilots right now. They have nothing going. They have no future. They have incompetent candidates. You look at what we did in D.C. Washington, D.C. was a death trap. We moved out 1,700 career criminals and criminals from other countries that came in through Biden's open border. We're going to go to San Francisco. The difference is I think they want us in San Francisco. Our cities that are Democrat-run, exclusively just about, are unsafe cities. They want $1.5 trillion for health care for illegal aliens that come into our country. If we do that, it will jeopardize the health care of the citizens of our country. I see John Bolton just got indicted. That's a good thing. He's a bad guy. All he wanted to do is drop bombs on people. I don't know what he did. It must be pretty severe. But whatever it is, let the courts decide. And Obama spied on my campaign. And he did it knowing it was illegal. And there were a lot of dishonest people. And I suspect they'll be caught.
So a lot going on there. In that interview, he covered a lot of detail, but this is kind of gives you a snippet of what we had taking place there. Again, we've never had a president that was this clear on communication. I don't think we've ever had a president that communicated so much, whether he's on Truth Social and social media or he's doing interviews. He is constantly in front of the press. In fact, when you compare it to the previous Biden presidency, it's on a whole nother level in terms of press access. Also, we had on Sunday, we had Dan Scavino that did this interview with Laura Trump on her show. I'm going to play just a short segment of Dan's. I thought it was good what he had to say, so take a listen.
I know we talked very early on in this administration about the difference between President Trump the first term, because you were here for the entirety of that, and the second term. How is he day to day now? Where do you see him overall? And I feel like the sky's the limit for this president and this administration.
The differences are absolutely incredible. We're not being attacked every day or investigated every day. The head games they played, they wanted to silence us. They ultimately wanted to put us all away for life. Then when he announced for the presidency, and we went full steam ahead, we worked in courtrooms behind the scenes. We're putting out Truth Social posts. We're campaigning. We're turning his press conferences in at the conclusion of a court hearing. Butler, Pennsylvania, we talked about last time, changed everything. Literally changed everything. It was from that point forward where I knew that he would be the 47th president of the United States. And then he just brought on a great team of people when we won the presidency. I mean, it is all surreal. I don't have time to even sit back and think about it, and think about what we've been through and what we've done and what we've achieved. There will never be a President Trump ever, ever, ever again. He's changing history for the better. He's fighting every day for your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, my family. That's why I do what I do. We could go out tomorrow and make millions of dollars. I instead take a government salary to fight for the American people every day. And that's everybody in this administration, all for President Trump, because they adore and they love the guy and they love the American people. They're patriots. And that's why we're here. We're on a mission. We're on a mission to deliver for everybody out there. And we're going to continue this mission. And we're going to fight hard each and every day, no matter what hit pieces come our way, no matter who tries to take us down. We're going to fight, fight, fight.
So, very interesting things there by Dan Scavino. They were up against epic resistance. If you look at what happened during the first Trump administration, I have never seen any political figure in my lifetime so attacked by media as President Trump and all of his cabinet. And now look what he's accomplishing, peace all over the world. 8 wars settled. Now it looks like we're going to have 9 soon if we can get Russia done. Very interesting what's happening here. On Monday, so interview Sunday, then on Monday we have the Prime Minister of Australia that shows up to have a meeting with Trump. And this was critical because there was an agreement that was signed. Let's look at this. We've got agreement that was signed between the Prime Minister of Australia and the U.S. over rare earth minerals. President Trump and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese on Monday signed an agreement on rare earth minerals at the White House. We got it done just in time for the visit, Trump said, and we worked together very much on rare earths, critical minerals, and lots of other things, and we've had a very good relationship. We've been working on that for quite a while. Now, why is this particular thing significant with Australia? It's significant because in the past, there was no major deals like this that could be struck directly with Australia because everything had to be rerouted through the Crown at the UK. Now Australia is being treated like their own country, and they're able to cut their own deals and work this out irregardless of what's going on in the UK. This has never been seen, not in my lifetime. This is historic, what we're watching here, not just because of one deal, but because of the flexibility the country now has to be independent. And I have friends in Australia. They have lamented for years about the control and all of these issues that are being forced upon them. We are now seeing this break apart, the control mechanism coming apart where they can actually flourish and they can thrive again. My hat's off to Australia. They've got great minerals, and it's wonderful that they want to share some of that with the U.S., and it's good for both countries. Everybody wins. U.S. Appeals Court did this on, again, this was Monday, overturned the previous court's decision allowing the troops to go into Portland, Oregon. Portland has been an absolute disaster where they've had Antifa and everybody trying to attack the ICE agents and the ICE facilities there. Now the court's saying, yes, you have the right legally, Mr. President, to direct the troops to go in and fix this problem. So that was big. And Eric Daugherty posted about this. He said, breaking in a massive victory, a federal court just allowed President Trump to surge National Guard troops to Portland to quash the Antifa. Major backup is on the way. The Democrats and activist judges have lost again. And here is the filing that was done in the court. Next, we have another court case. This also was won this week, but this time in California. The Ninth Circuit hands President Trump a sweeping win over Gavin Newsom. Trump can now federalize the California National Guard to enforce federal immigration law. So now the issue's pretty much been settled on, does the commander-in-chief have the authority to do this? And yes, he does. So he's going to take care of these problems. We don't want any more crime. We don't want any more of this disturbance, right? The insurrectionists. Trump posted this about the success they've had with crime. He said, the FBI under my administration is doing an incredible job. Since January 20th, more than 28,000 violent criminals have been arrested, which is record-breaking. With over 6,000 illegal weapons seized, more than 1,700 child predators and 300 human traffickers have been taken off the streets. 5,000 innocent children have been rescued. 2,000 criminal enterprises disrupted, and 1,900 kilos of fentanyl, enough to kill 125 million people, have been taken out. This is historic results. We are bringing law and order back to America. Cash, Dan, Andrew, and the men and women of the FBI are doing a tremendous job making America safe again. This is big. When you look at this, they haven't had very many months to get this done. Many of them didn't even get fully into place until it was like March or even April, before they could even begin functioning properly as an administration because of the delays that were happening in the Senate with confirmations. Now look what they've accomplished in such a short period of time. That's incredible. Gateway Pundit posted this. Numerous major websites have been knocked offline by cloud computing outage. Again, this happened the same day as well. So it says here, an issue with Amazon's cloud computing services triggered an outage early Monday that hit a number of websites and apps, including Amazon, Venmo, Ring, Slack, WhatsApp, Coinbase, Lloyd's Bank, and Perplexity, and more. Then I saw Nino posted this, David Nino Rodriguez. Amazon's AWS is still down. Adobe Creative Cloud, Airtable, Amazon, Apple Music, Asana, AT&T, Battlefield, Blink, Boost Mobile, Canva, ChatGPT, Chime, Coinbase, College Board, Dead by Daylight, Delta Airlines. The list goes on. In the end, he just puts, ouch. Yeah, it was pretty big. That was a pretty big outage. A lot of people are saying, is this it? Is this the 10 days of darkness? No, it's not. Okay, let's not get too carried away. We're not quite there yet. However, isn't it interesting that taking down AWS could affect so much? It shows you how consolidated the cyber position has been under just one company's situation. Let's go to the U.S. debt clock, because there were some very significant and I think historical things that dropped this week. So usdebtclock.org, go there, keep track of this. There's some interesting information being dropped. First thing I want to point your attention to is the one at the top left there. This is the U.S. national debt. It hit $38 trillion for the first time in history under the current banking system. $38 trillion, I thought that was significant. We hit $37 trillion just 2.5 months ago. So if we can't cut spending, this is going to be impossible to stay on top of. Again, part of the narrative, part of showing everybody how bad the system is. And now here we have it shown on the website. Let's take a look at what they posted in the secret window, though, because this was significant. Take a look at this. The new money revolution. Now, they've talked a lot about new money coming and how we got to get rid of the Fed. But let's take a look at some of these things. It says a golden age. And they posted a little box to the left here. Now, I realize that's so small on your screen, you're not going to be able to read that. So let's see if we'll let me go one more here. Nope, there we go. I wanted to make it bigger. A simple plan. Now, this is about unwinding the Federal Reserve and bringing in the country's own sovereign currency. Okay, so here's the plan that they've proposed. Step 1, sign an executive order stopping the printing of new money and the creation of new bonds by the Fed. Guarantee the repayment of all outstanding U.S. debt. Okay. Step 2, begin the printing of new USA Treasury dividend dollars equal to 5% of GDP a year. So they're going to increase the money supply by 5%. Spend and not borrow this new debt and interest-free money into circulation. Maintain a stable M2 money supply, which is the 5% greater per year. And then step 3, watch as the world realizes the fallacy of issuing money as debt and the worldwide matrix of control through the BIS and the IMF crumbles. This is big. Now they're actually giving us the plan of how this is going to go down. So, like I said, until we can get the Fed removed, the fiat removed, we can't have the new currency that is asset-backed by gold and silver, which is needed in order to revalue currencies. Each of these countries are going to pay off their debt, and they're going to revalue their currency with real asset-backed money. And this is what's going to come. So let me back up 2 slides here. Abraham Lincoln gets mentioned a lot on U.S. debt clock. And a lot of people don't understand why this is, but it has significance in the history of money. It says, New World Promise, over the top of his head there, money will cease to be master and become the servant of humanity. So I'm going to make this bigger so you can kind of see that. What is the significance of Abraham Lincoln? In during the time of the Civil War, when Lincoln is fighting battles epically, he was much like a Trump. They were coming at him from every angle, from newspapers, from everything, and then this war gets foisted upon him. And he needs to fund the Civil War. He's got to lead the North in reunifying the country. So what does he do? He goes to each of the top banks at the time, you know, your Chase, your JP Morgans, all of this, and talks to them and say, hey, we need some money to prosecute this war. Can you loan us the money? And every one of them told him the same thing. They knew this was coming, and they all agreed to give him the same answer. The answer was this: we will loan you the money at 30% per annum. That is high yield credit card rates. That was an impossibility for a country to pay that kind of high interest and expect to survive. So he had to walk out of the meetings. There wasn't anything he could do. So what does he do? He spends the next several days reading his Bible and praying about the matter. And he gets the feeling he needs to go to the Constitution and look for answers. And he finds it right there, because in the Constitution it says the right to print money lies with Congress. So what does he do? He talks to Congress, and they print the greenbacks. The greenbacks would remain in circulation from the 1860s all the way to the 1980s. The greenbacks were backed not by gold and silver at the time, but they were backed by the good faith and credit of the United States. Well, this put all the bankers into a massive panic. What are they going to do? They can't control a nation that prints its own money because it's debt-free. They don't have anything to hold over them. So they respond politically. They get lobbyists to go after every single member of Congress, House and Senate, and lobby every single member to convince them that if the country continues down this path, it will be the utter destruction of the nation economically. Meanwhile, it was working. The currency didn't have the same value as a gold-backed Morgan dollar. However, it got to about 3-to-1. So it takes 3 of the paper dollars of greenbacks to equal a Morgan gold dollar or silver dollar. So what did this do? It was enough. It was close enough in value that they could pay the soldiers with this script this paper money, and they could go down to their grocery store and they could buy food for their family. And it became wildly successful. Everyone started to accept it as the currency of the day. Well, when they came to the point of running out of that money, that first printing was $487 million. Sounds like a lot of money in those days. But when that eventually ended and they needed more, they had to do another printing, right? So Lincoln goes back to Congress. We need to print some more. We need to go one more round. And he no longer had support. The lobbyists had succeeded in convincing all of Congress to turn against the president and to not print the greenback. Instead, here's what they did. They formed a central bank by legislation, and they borrowed the money to finish the war. As history would show, it was about 3 months, plus left of the war. Why did they do this? Because they didn't understand that debt would be the slavery of the nation. All the focus was on physical slavery, was on the slavery of the blacks in the South. But the reality was the bankers were trying to enslave everybody financially, and they did. When the war ended, Lincoln began to make public statements about this central bank. And he said that this would be the financial slavery of the nation, and that he was going to put it down if it's the last thing he did. And we know history. He was killed in the Ford Theater. In fact, every president since then that wanted to relaunch the greenbacks was assassinated. 3 in total. What does that tell you? It tells you that the money and the people behind the money are not nice. They don't care what happens. They don't care who they tax. They want control. But we're seeing all of the control break away. We're seeing all of this get fixed step by step by step. So keep watching the debt clock, because it's giving you clues. It's the next step as we take as we move forward to freedom. All of us were born in captivity. We're in it, the machine, so much we don't even know we're enslaved. That is the problem. That is the Psyop that they've created. And we'll talk a little bit more about this as we go forward. So let's go back to our slides here. I do want to spend just a couple minutes on this. The Great Unwind. I really like this graphic because it shows the Fed on the left in green, the banking cartel, and it shows it winding to gold. Notice the gold color with the USA Treasury Reserve dividend dollar. Now, why is this called the dividend dollar? I've mentioned this before, but I think it bears mentioning again. It's mentioned as a dividend dollar because the United States now has a sovereign wealth fund where the assets of the country, I'm not talking about, your homes or whatever. I'm talking about the general assets, the 100 miles off the coast that's owned by the country, the national parks, the BLM land. All of this is owned by the country. What's in there, what's in the land, what's under the soil is vast reserves. Gold, silver, oil in great supply. And when oil companies want to drill offshore, they're going to pay oil leases to who? To the sovereign wealth fund. This is why every dollar that's printed is like a dividend, because the country is earning money from the assets that it has. By doing so, you will see the elimination of taxes. It won't need to tax the people because it has an income source that's independent and it's not debt. So this is really huge what we're watching here. Let's take a look at silver. This was just earlier today. I took this screenshot, $49. Last week, it hit $54. If you remember, I reported on that, and that was big. If you look at the chart, this is for the last 5 days, so it's the last week. It dropped off, down to 49. Actually went below that to like 48, but came back to 49. What we saw happen is when it hit that all-time high, 54 was an all-time high. When it hit that high, you had some profit taking going on. However, it didn't drop as low as people were hoping. Why? Because the availability of physical silver is still tight. It's getting difficult to even find it. When it dropped to $48, a bunch of people bought back in, hoping to buy the dip, right? And so we still have this huge constraint on availability of silver. I think it's going to jump again because when there's a scarcity, it goes nowhere but up. It's already up, even at $48, $49 it says here. It's up 100% over 12 months ago. 100% in 12 months. And it's just getting started. And this is what happens when you have a fiat currency collapsing. It's not that silver changed. An ounce is still an ounce. But the value of that fiat against the silver is literally collapsing. So you need more fiat. Got to have more dollars if you're going to buy that silver. And so that's what we see transpiring here. Trump posted this, and this is about this issue with the peace deal with Hamas and Israel. It's precarious right now, right? They've had a hard time maintaining the ceasefire. Let's hear what he says. Numerous of our now great allies in the Middle East and areas surrounding the Middle East have explicitly and strongly, with great enthusiasm, informed me that they would welcome the opportunity, at my request, to go into Gaza with a heavy force and straighten our Hamas. If Hamas continues to act badly in violation of their agreement with us, the love and spirit for the Middle East has not been seen like this in 1,000 years. It is a beautiful thing to behold. I told these countries and Israel, not yet. There is still hope that Hamas will do what is right. If they do not, an end to Hamas will be fast, furious, and brutal. I don't think he's messing around here, folks. Let's see what happens. Hopefully we can maintain peace there, because if it does require troops on the ground, I don't know if there's any prisoners taken. That's all I can say. Trump posted this as well. All 20 hostages are back, feeling good as can be expected. Big burden has been lifted, but the job is not done. The dead have not been returned as promised. Phase 2 begins right now. So many mentions of Phase 2 over the last week. Let's take a look at some of these. Real America's Voice posted this. Trump, Phase 2 begins. Hamas playing games makes sense. But what are the concerns about Phase 2 now? Take a listen.
Israel says they've gotten 7 back. One of them, apparently, though, is not a hostage. It's a dead Palestinian that Hamas gave them. Hamas playing games makes perfect sense, and that's why I'm concerned about Phase 2 big time. What can you tell us from the White House this morning? Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, David. I agree. Phase 2 is the next difficult chapter in that. And the two major components of this Phase 2 is A, finding out what that governing body looks like for that area. And then Phase 2 is also who is going to pay for this massive rebuild, this cleanup, if you will, decimated. About 8 out of 10 structures there in that area are completely demolished. And going back to the return of the dead bodies of the Israelis, I'm not quite sure Hamas even knows where they're at. I think that might be one of the reasons why we haven't gotten those back. I mean, and then of course Hamas has got to lay down their weapons as well. And so that's not been the case. And from what I heard this morning from an intelligent informant told me that what you have now is some kind of rogue gang, some people that have broken away from Hamas that are fighting each other. So you've got that going on as well. So it is definitely a very complicated step into achieving ultimate peace there and making sure that we start this rebuilding of Gaza. But I think it's going to be a major effort in cleaning and paying for that. And of course, we've got some UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar has agreed somewhat to help do that. But phase 2 is underway right now.
So phase 2 is ongoing here. Il Donato Trumpo posted this. They're not even ready for phase 2, exclamation point. Of course, it shows Trump in what looks like the outline of the White House in olive gold. I brought this up in February 14, 2019. Q had posted this on the Q boards. A traitor's justice, phase 2. Panic in D.C., rats everywhere. For those who decide to save the taxpayers some money, there is no escaping God. Q. Thought that was interesting and something to remember. J.D. Vance flew over to Israel and Gaza on Monday to take a look at the situation, to do a follow-up of the previous week's peace deal. And he had this to say when he was there.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to have you. Look, I think that we are 1 week into President Trump's historic peace plan in the Middle East, and things are going, frankly, better than I expected that they were. This is a very, very tough situation. You have two peoples, two enemies who have fought a very tough conflict against each other. You have a terrorist organization on one hand that murdered a lot of innocent people. You've got an Israeli army that was defending itself on the other, that has learned a lot over the past couple of years. And then, of course, you have an innocent civilian population in Gaza that's caught in the middle. But we're here at the Civilian Military Cooperation Center, which we are announcing the opening of. You have Israelis and Americans working hand in hand to try to begin the plan to rebuild Gaza, to implement a long-term peace, and to actually ensure that you have security forces on the ground in Gaza, not composed of Americans, who can keep the peace over the long term. So we've got a lot of work left to do. This is going to take a very, very long time, but I think Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and Admiral Cooper behind me have done an incredible job. I want to say just a couple of quick things, and then I want to turn it over to Steve Witkoff. Number one, the Israeli government has been remarkably helpful in this. I want to thank them, thank our Israeli partners, and all the folks particularly who are working hand in hand with their American friends here at the CMCC. And number two, I want to say that there is this weird attitude I've sensed in the American media and the Western media where there's almost this desire to root for failure, that every time something bad happens, that every time that there's an act of violence, there's this inclination to say, oh, this is the end of the ceasefire, this is the end of the peace plan. It's not the end. It is, in fact, exactly how this is going to have to happen when you have people who hate each other, who have been fighting against each other for a very long time. We are doing very well. We are in a very good place. We're going to have to keep working on it, but I think we have the team to do exactly that.
So I liked what he said there about staying positive and not going to the negative thing just when certain things happen. We create our lives to a great degree. So let's stay positive always about the outcome we want, because that's the power within us to create a new future. Donald J. Trump posted this about the expansion on the White House, and boy, did this cause a stir this week. Let's hear it. I'm pleased to announce the ground has been broken on the White House grounds to build the new, big, beautiful White House ballroom. Completely separate from the White House itself, the East Wing is being fully modernized as part of this process and will be more beautiful than ever when it is complete. For more than 150 years, every president has dreamt about having a ballroom at the White House to accommodate people for grand parties, state visits, etc. I'm honored to be the first president to finally get this much-needed project underway with zero cost to the American taxpayer. The White House ballroom is being privately funded by many generous patriots, great American companies, and yours truly. This ballroom will happily be used for generations to come. President DJT. So this really stirred some things up. I couldn't believe how many in the media were complaining about a ballroom being built there. They were going on and on. That's not your house. That's the people's house, and going crazy. But if you look at history, you can Google this, okay, if you want to do a search. But almost every president has made changes and updates to the White House in some way or another, except the last one. The Bidens didn't do anything. But almost all the others did something. Even the Obamas put in a basketball court. So, there's usually always something being done by various presidents. And what was interesting is originally the ballroom is going to be added on to the East Wing, but they decided there were some structural issues and stuff with the East Wing. So they're redoing the whole East Wing along with the ballroom and making it all modern and brand new with a new foundation. And that was interesting. It added about another $100 million to the project, but it's going to stand for decades to come. So probably the right choice. This was big news. This happened on the 21st, on Tuesday. The Federal Reserve holds a conference. Now, this is not your normal conference. Okay, when the Federal Reserve holds a conference, it's all about their money system and what they're doing with their money. However, this conference was all about DeFi, decentralized finance, and crypto, and the role in the mainstream payments. So Angela Saldana posted this. The Fed's first innovation conference highlights DeFi and crypto's role in mainstream payments. This is a new era for the Federal Reserve and payments. The DeFi industry is no longer viewed with suspicion or scorn. Today, it is welcomed into the conversation on the future. Take a listen to what the Fed governor says. I'm going to give you my thoughts on it.
Well, thank you, Susan, and good morning to everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Federal Reserve Board for our first Payments Innovation Conference. My objective in creating this conference is twofold. First, I wanted to have a conference that focused on the new technologies that had come from the DeFi and crypto worlds and how they are entering into the mainstream payments ecosystem. My goal is to have a vibrant discussion about payments between traditional payment incumbents and the new entrants from the DeFi world. Second, I wanted to send a message that this is a new era for the Federal Reserve in payments. The DeFi industry is not viewed with suspicion or scorn. Rather, today, you are welcome to the conversation on the future of payments in the United States and on our home field, something that would have been unimaginable a few years ago. My view for the Fed from now on is embrace the disruption, don't avoid it. As you know, we are well into a technology-driven revolution in payments, and I'm here to say that the Federal Reserve intends to be an active part of that revolution. A number of technological advances are transforming the payment system. Stablecoins and tokenized assets, making use of distributed ledger technology, the rapid adoption of artificial intelligence AI, and increasingly the convergence between these innovations and the traditional financial ecosystem.
Okay, so as we look at this, and there's more to this whole thing, I want to read this post, the one on the left here that Diana put. She later posted the Reuters. They kind of go together, but let me read this, and then I don't want to give you my take on this because it's not what it looks like. Okay. Breaking: the Fed just opened the door for Ripple, Custodia, and Kraken. The big news out of the Federal Reserve Payments Innovation Conference, Governor Chris Waller announced plans for a new limited access master account, aka a skinny master account that could finally give fintech, stablecoin issuers, and crypto firms direct access to the Fed's payment rails. Okay. What does this mean? It means that you have companies like Ripple who applied for a banking license months ago, and they are seeking what's known as a Fed master account. So what is a Fed master account? Let's talk about that for a second. A Fed master account is an account where the bank can have a direct lending and borrowing relationship with the Fed directly. So if you've got a master account, you can borrow from the Fed. You can also loan money back to the Fed at times of when they need liquidity, and you earn interest on that as well. Okay. What is this master account light? What is the limited master? The limited master account doesn't give you that borrowing and lending functionality. What it does is it gives you access to the payment rails. Now, it's not quite like crypto payment rails, okay? It means that, let's say that you're a company like Ripple, and you're granted one of these limited master accounts. What it means is that you can move money from stablecoins. You can move money into the Fed system to deliver payments directly over the FedNow system. Okay, so you can do direct wires. That's what it means. Why are they doing this? This is a panic move. Okay, it's panic. Why? Because money in the billions of dollars is leaving the Federal Reserve Bank system and it's migrating to blockchain. It's not settling on the Fed's platform. It's settling instantly on blockchain without them. They can't have this. They've been in control for 100 plus years. So what do? This is like a Hail Mary attempt. We got to bring the money back into the system. Make sure it settles on our system. That's what's really going on here. Okay. Now, it's a two-edged sword when they make a move like this. What I mean by that is, on one side, okay, you give access to the bank system for fintech companies. Okay. Coinbase, all these types of companies. Okay. They now have access to send money through the Fed wire system. However, when you build a bridge like that between blockchain and traditional banking, where people get to have experience together with both, what you're doing is you are only making it more obvious the one's better than the other, and it's not the Federal Reserve System. So it's actually going to speed the adoption onto blockchain rather than slow it down. But it's kind of the only move they had left because money is draining from the system. I showed last week, if you looked at the chart that I showed, where the liquidity had dropped to like next to nothing on the repo window, the reverse repo, that was money that the banks are loaning back to the Federal Reserve. Okay. And they earn interest on it when they do this. Okay. So everybody's supposed to make money. However, the banks don't have it. They don't have the money to loan back. Why? Because money is leaving the system. It's going to blockchain where it's being held by individuals and it's sent peer to peer. So the Federal Reserve said, we intend to be a part of the innovation. That is code for, holy crap, we're about to be irrelevant. Okay? That's what's really happening here. Watch how this plays out. Now, one of the things is about this, I actually think it's a good thing that they did this. I know it sounds crazy. I think it's a good thing because of this. It's going to introduce to more people, the people that don't know anything other than their bank account. Like, they've heard cryptocurrency. People talk about it on TV. I don't know what it is. I don't want to know. It doesn't matter to me. These people are now suddenly, because of bridges being built here with these limited accounts, they're now going to be exposed to both sides of this, which is only going to speed the adoption to blockchain, to transparency. I think that's a good thing. And I think it gives time for people that are not yet ready to put their feet into the water in terms of like crypto technology. They can have a little bit of time to use their bank account, but still have interfaces to it where they can kind of learn it. They can get used to it. This is a necessary thing. I think it's a good thing. Ultimately, it's going to help the people transition. How's it going to help the Fed? It's not. They're at record low liquidity. If the debt clock is correct and a presidential action document comes out and says, we are done with fiat, it could be mass panic. Maybe that won't happen as fast as that says. Maybe first you get blockchain running on rails, smooth as silk. Let people try it. Let them experience it. Because when you experience both, and if you can put an asset-backed currency on blockchain, and you compare it to fiat, which is cratering in value right now, the gold and silver is obvious. To look at the price of gold, over 4,000 an ounce. Gold's up nearly 100% over a year as well. Silver's just a little higher. But there's still, I mean, really? Gold and silver didn't change. There's not more gold, there's not more silver. It's still an ounce of each. What changed is the value of the fiat against those metals is dropping like a freaking rock. So we're watching this implosion, kind of like in slow motion. And it's going to reach a point where eventually you're going to have the president and the Treasury Secretary probably stand up and say, we need to do this to shore up our future. And then you'll see things massively shift. We're getting there. A couple things need to happen. We're still waiting on legislation to be passed on the Clarity Act. There were two bills that were passed by the House in July. They passed the Clarity Act and they passed the no CBDC bill. What I'm hearing now is that the Senate is combining those into just the Clarity Act. So the Clarity Act will now have the no CBDC within it when it gets passed. We're hearing it could be within the first couple of weeks of November. So just around the corner. And so that's going to be interesting because that's only a week away. If we get that done by the middle of November, that means the U.S. will be ready to go when the deadline comes for ISO 20022 compliance globally. That deadline is November 22nd. So that gives time for our country to be fully operational, ready if we hit those numbers. Now, is Congress going to get it done in time? Well, look how they're doing with the shutdown. Okay. We'll have to see. Now, I personally think this shutdown is not what it looks like. Yeah, it's being blamed on the Democrats. They're looking like a bunch of idiots. Everybody's beginning to hate them now. I think that was part of the narrative. And as we get into the end of this podcast today, I want to get into this because this is about the Psyop. Okay? All of it is. We've been in a matrix where we were programmed to think things were a certain way to control, manipulate us for a very long time. And not just financially, in every facet of our life. Healthcare, education, all of it. Okay? All of it. So as we contemplate what's taking place here, we've got to keep the big picture in mind. I want to move on here. Yesterday, Trump did this, and he directed the Secretary of Treasury to institute sanctions on Russia to help bring the war to an end. Treasury sanctions major Russian oil companies and calls on Moscow to immediately agree to a ceasefire. What the Treasury did is it basically cut off all of these big oil companies in Russia from U.S. dollars. They're being isolated financially. That squeeze is to help get to a peace deal. And you're probably going to see a squeeze going on Ukraine at the same time. Trump is going to squeeze them both until they say, we economically can't survive if we don't settle with peace. So watch how that goes, because most of these wars that he settled, he did because of economics, because they would literally be bankrupt if they didn't do it. Treasury Secretary posted this, very important. This was just yesterday. The budget deficit began to shrink dramatically beginning in the second quarter this year, when there was no overlap with the Biden administration. From April to September, the cumulative deficit total was $468 billion. This is the lowest it has been since 2019 and is down. So if you look at this, the big tall one there on the left of the bar graph, that was the pandemic. That was 2020. Massive spending going on to try to get through the pandemic. And we're now at the lowest level since then. We're not quite to the year before, but it's coming down. We're getting to that place. So he was trying to tell us, hey, we're making progress. Now, as I wrap up this podcast, I want to share some of this with Chase Hughes. Chase is was CIA. His job was to teach their people all about psyops and about how they work. Machiavelli posted this. CIA profile Chase Hughes explains the reality of our world and psyops. Translation: President Trump and the team are causing this acceleration, which is waking the people up to the deception, as well as exposing the enemies and their crimes. Listen to this short video.
I'm the guy that teaches psyops, telling you that we are in a psyop. 1,000%. We are in a big-time psyop. And that does not mean that I have some kind of X-ray vision and I can see the puppet masters up above the stage. I'm not saying I don't research that stuff.
Right.
But I do research these techniques. And they're definitely here. And it looks like this is the same process that's happened all over the world where psyops were sped up and weren't allowed to mature before the next phase began. And I think people are saying, well, this is bonkers or this is ridiculous, just crazy. Like it's just in your face.
Yeah.
It's from the left, from the right, from everywhere.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with left or right. And I think that is in itself a whole nother discussion.
Yes.
But we're seeing a timeline being sped up. We're seeing things done more and more in the open because there's probably not time for the previous step to mature to get our minds ready to receive the next one.
I see.
That's what it is.
So as we look at what he's talking about here, the psyops are the narratives that are playing out for us right now. It's all part of this transition. But what's happened is we've had evil playing their own psyop, and we've had the good playing their psyop. It's been a battle of psyops instead of bullets. Okay? Very interesting. Now I'm gonna forward to the next one here. Watch this video of his where he kind of gives, it's just 2 minutes. Okay, it's not very long. And then I'm going to end with a longer one that he posted just a couple of days ago that kind of gives a better overview. And I apologize, the long one's 12 minutes, but it's so important. I felt like we need to see it. Okay. It's important that we understand the only way we awaken from the programming is to have the programming steps accelerated. So you never quite get to a conclusion of a psyop before the next one starts. And then it just starts to look more discombobulated. Most of you that watch my videos, you're already awake. This has already shook you. Okay. And you figured that out. But for those that haven't, let them watch this. Let them see this, because you're going to understand that our entire lives have been programmed with specific narratives. So take a listen.
Included, we all have been sold the biggest con of our entire life. And this is that the problem is left versus right, or Republicans versus Democrats. And that is the distraction fireworks show that they want us screaming about while they're doing something else. And this is a magician's trick. And I'm about to really show you what Charlie has kind of exposed here. If you turned on cable news today, you go in your living room, turn it on, maybe you scroll social media, what are you going to see? the absolute fringe. They're going to show you the loudest, dumbest, most cartoonish people from the other side blasted in your face 24/7. You're not being shown your neighbor or your coworker or the mom next door who votes differently. You're being shown a bunch of professional lunatics that are handpicked to make you think one thing. And the one big thing that they want you to think is, oh my God, these people are insane. They are the enemy. That's the reason that we're going downhill. And none of this is an accident. This is word for word, textbook psychological operations. And military psyops manuals literally describe how you isolate a target audience, then you pump them full of a bunch of outrage, you create a tribal us versus them identity. This is straight out of a psyops textbook. So why would we want to do this? Or why would psyops want to do this? Because once you're locked into tribal thinking, you're going to swallow anything. You're going to believe any lie about the other side. You're going to cheer when other people suffer. You'll excuse things that you would never excuse in your own neighborhood if you watched it right in front of you and it was one of your neighbors. This is exactly the playbook on how you get otherwise decent, kind people laughing at a murder on the internet. That is how you radicalize a country without firing a shot.
So, good explanation in 2 minutes there about how these psyops have affected all of us. Now, Chase posted this video. It's on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and see the entirety of it. He does have a channel there. It's titled How They Broke Us All. And everyone should see this. I know you have friends that are probably not awake. Everyone should see this so they can realize what's been going on. At the conclusion of this, I'll give you my final thoughts and we'll end for today.
If you've had that feeling like your life doesn't belong to you, something is off, maybe the choices, the emotions, even the arguments in your head aren't really yours, that is not you being paranoid at all. That is the program running. And the crazy part about all of this is it didn't start with your phone. It didn't start with TikTok. It started well over 100 years ago in a quiet office with men in suits mapping out the human mind like a machine that they could rewire. But here's what almost nobody understands. There is a reason that outrage feels addictive. There's a reason that despair feels normal. There's a reason that you wake up with dread and blame yourself for it. It was designed. And the moment you see how, you can't unsee it. So let me rip this open for you. Where did all of this programming really begin? It was a quiet office in London in 1921. This is the Tavistock Institute. They said it was about helping soldiers heal, and it wasn't. And once they cracked all of these things open that they did there, the experiment never ended. Officially, Tavistock was about treating shell shock. This is what they used to call PTSD. It was trauma therapy. It was a beautiful cover story. But what they actually found, trauma doesn't just break people, it softens them up, makes them pliable. They were not fixing soldiers like they told everybody. They were testing civilians. They were running war psychology on entire populations. Grief, confusion, and fear. Tavistock used all of these things like tools in a toolbox. Once you know which lever makes a herd turn into a stampede, you don't need speeches or ballots anymore. You just pull the lever. So after World War II, Tavistock moves into media and education and government. Its fingerprints are on NATO, Psyops, Cold War propaganda, and the actual birth of mass advertising. Then this guy comes on the scene a little later. His name is Edward Bernays, and he's actually Sigmund Freud's nephew, which is super weird. But instead of analyzing dreams and stuff like that, he turned the unconscious into a marketplace. And Edward Bernays is the reason that women smoked in public. He branded cigarettes as torches of freedom for women. He's the reason that we link bacon and eggs with breakfast. It was an ad campaign. It was never a tradition at all. Edward Bernays is the reason that Guatemala's democracy got overthrown. He sold it as fighting communism so that this company called United Fruit could keep their plantations. And he weaponized desire. He made war fashionable. He made democracy emotional. A few years down the road, we have this Operation Mockingbird program that comes out through the CIA. The CIA figured out the easiest way to control a country was by headlines. They thought it was about threats and war and the potential for some kind of bomb being dropped, but it was just headlines and news. That's all you needed to control a whole country. Operation Mockingbird put CIA operatives inside the biggest newsrooms in America, not just whispering in journalists' ears. They were writing the actual stories. Some of them were even newscasters. They were planting every single angle that they were told to plant. And by the 70s, over 400 journalists were on the payroll of the CIA. Anchors, editors, columnists, people that our parents trusted, that were trusted by almost the whole country. So now we've got the CIA's infiltrated the entire news media, and along comes this other program called MK Ultra. The CIA went full-blown mad scientist. They studied these weird experiments on people, some of them even unwilling, that included electroshock therapy and sleep deprivation in high doses of LSD, which is a hallucinogen, and even sensory isolation. It was about breaking minds completely open in the cleanest way that they possibly could. And it was about erasing identity. Keep that in mind. In the 50s, they were becoming experts at erasing people's identity. And in Canada, during this whole thing, this guy named Dr. Ewan Cameron, he ran patients through this thing that he called psychic driving, and he looped recorded messages into their ears while blasting them with drugs and shock therapy until they forgot their own name. And some of the patients there even forgot how to use the bathroom and how to walk and who their family was. When the files leaked in 1970, the public kind of gasped and freaked out. But by then, the experiments were already baked into the military and media playbooks around the entire world. The tools worked exceedingly well, and the ethics to them had no bearing on whether or not they should keep going. Fast forward to today. They used to use pills. Now they use pixels. And the pharmacy they're using is in your brain. It's all your own neurochemicals and your own neurotransmitters being used against you. And the dosage of these things is measured in how many headlines and hashtags and notifications and videos that you see. Tavistock engineered this confusion. Bernays taught them how to sell it. Mockingbird made it gospel to the entire world. And MK Ultra buried the witnesses. So now the experiment lab isn't in some weird underground bunker, it's in your frickin' pocket. So on your phone, every swipe, every pause, every time your eyes linger 1 second too long, your nervous system is being mapped out by an algorithm. And it's not for your benefit whatsoever, it's for theirs. Algorithms don't just recommend a bunch of stuff to us, they condition us, and this is beyond proven. They learn what spikes your cortisol, your stress chemicals, what makes you flinch, what makes you pissed off. They feed you more and more until your nervous system belongs to them. You're being taught what to care about, what to hate, what to fear, slowly, without any friction, until the thoughts in your head aren't even yours anymore. Outrage is the cheapest lever you could pull in a human being. That's why everything online is on fire. Doesn't matter what you're mad about, just that you are mad. Because anger glues your eyes to the screen. And while you're locked in reaction mode, something deeper, a lot deeper in your brain is being carved into you. If you look around right now, nobody is okay. Anxiety is baseline. Kids are depressed before they even hit puberty right now. Adults are medicated just to function. And that low dread or that weird feeling in your chest, people call that like personal failure or anxiety. That's the program working exactly as it was designed. A distracted, exhausted, divided population is a population that cannot resist. The mental health crisis is not accidental. It's the exhaust fumes of this machine. So what happens at the end of this? We are all programmed to chase validation and followers and aesthetics and power and status. And even when people hit every single target, what happens? They feel nothing. The system doesn't need you dead. It just needs you numb. It needs you to be busy, blaming yourself until you forget you were anything more than a user profile in some behavior experiment. And if you're still here, something in you already knows. And maybe you can't explain it, and maybe I can't either. I don't think that's paranoia at all. I think it's memory. I think the part of you that never signed the contract is paying attention. It's a part of you that never forgot. So none of this is about finding yourself. This is about stopping the chase and stopping the performance, stopping the endless need to be what the system rewards. You are not outrage. You are not your social profile. You're not the algorithm's predictions. The very second that you stop feeding the machine, you start starving it. And once you remember that, you can't go back. And you've probably felt it most of your life, like an itch in your gut that none of this crap makes sense. The way that we live is upside down and it feels backward and fake. If you've felt this at all, I'm here to tell you that you were right. This was never your life. It was built for you. It was all scripted and installed. Your real life is still here. It's quiet. It's patient, and it's waiting for you under the noise. And now that you've seen it, the only question left is, who are you without the script? That's the real you. Because the system is starting to crack, and you know it. And your real life is waiting.
So as we're at the conclusion here, I just wanted everybody to understand that it's not easy waking up from the matrix, but many of you are doing it. And you're sharing these things with your friends and your neighbors who are beginning to see that it's all crazy. Why would there be a weird thing like the No King's Day when there's not a king in our country? Why would there be so much money spent on these things, right? Why would all this be coming about? You're already beginning to see it was all fake. It was not meant for you. So the great Psyop is that we are awakening from our slumber of captivity, from our slavery of our mind, financial slavery, even the way we conduct our lives has all been scripted. I hope that this is helpful for some of you, that you can realize that it's okay to turn off the TV, the computer, the phone, set it down, go be with nature, breathe in some fresh air, enjoy yourself, and realize that we don't have to feed the system all the time, every time. I have people that email me all the time saying, I don't understand. There's all these fake AI videos everywhere and everything's just confusing. It's messing with me. It's designed to mess with you. Don't let it. Don't let that stuff in. Don't go down that road. We've had enough. It's now time for us to arise from the ash heap of what all of this is. They've broken us down. Now we get to live our best lives. Now we get to build heaven on earth. It's all possible. We can do this together. We can make the world better. It can be beautiful. We can create it the way that we want it to be. So in closing tonight, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you take time to just breathe in and out. Know that many of the things that are happening in our world today, no, they're not normal. No, you're not crazy. Just know it's just the machine. It's just the machine cranking out this crazy stuff. And you don't need to go with it. We have an incredible opportunity to love each other, to be kind to one another. We've been through a lot. Let's not be critical. Let's lift each other up. Let's move forward in a way that brings peace, prosperity, and know that the best is not yet to come, but is coming now. With that, I hope you have a wonderful evening. Until next time, this is Will Barney with Enoch Global Services, signing off. Have a beautiful day.